Hi there! Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we're going to be doing something really different, and this is going to be a continuing theme, I think, for a lot of my videos. It's really funny because I don't have any other married friends at all. All of my friends, like, they don't even really have partners. They're like perpetually single, and I don't know. They always come up to me and they ask me about dating, especially now that I've gotten married, and if I reconnect with somebody, the first thing they ask obviously is like how I'm doing, but like they always ask about my marriage and if it's going well, and when I say yeah, they're like, okay, but how though? Like, how are you doing this though? And I always find it really funny, and a lot of times they ask for advice. And I kind of took an Instagram poll again. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should. I was asking if people would be interested in a video about dating, romance, advice, stuff like that. And I was surprised how many people said yeah. So, here we are. But if it does well, and maybe people interact in the comments, they want more specific questions, I can answer them in a part 2. But for this video, I thought I would just give some like generic ass dating advice from somebody who's a married millennial, which is, I feel like, a rare breed. So yeah, here we go. If you're still interested in that, just keep on watching. Yeah, I know there is a ton of dating content on YouTube, a ton, and you know, the stuff that I've at least heard, I can't speak for everybody because that's not my genre, right? But at least from what I've seen other people react to, there's a lot of bad dating advice out there. There's a lot of outdated dating advice out there, and something needs to be done to make this stop, right? So like, I've seen things like from men trying to give men advice to pick up women about how you should just like intimidate them at a bar and establish your dominance and bullshit like that. And then on the flip side, I've seen women try to give other women advice on how to catch a man, and saying like, well, if you're somebody with like tattoos, then you aren't deserving of love. And I've seen like a lot of weird shit and a lot of weird opinions that I don't think are actually helpful. So I'm gonna give you some straight up realness advice that hopefully you'll find to be helpful. So first of all, I just want to say that this is coming from my perspective and my preferences. So I am somebody who is obsessed with commitment, right? I've never been in a really casual dating relationship, or I've never been polyamorous. And I think both those things are perfectly healthy, right? If you are somebody who wants to do that, that's great. This video is going to be designed more for people who are trying to look for a committed relationship. This is for people who are just kind of searching for like a more serious commitment with one partner, right? Not discrediting any of that. And I'm also somebody who's dated just people in general from all walks of life. And like, I think there's so much dating advice that's really gendered and kind of outdated, and you know, at their core, people are all the same, right? And you know, you always have this very stereotypical kind of, I'm just going to say, kind of sexist perspective, this very heteronormative perspective of dating, and I don't think that's the reality for a lot of people anymore. So this advice that I'm going to give you is going to be eliminated of all that kind of gender stereotypes. So if you're somebody who is looking for me to say stuff like that, I'm sorry, that's not what's going to happen in this video. Okay, so my first piece of dating advice is kind of a soft read against some of my friends, and if you're watching this, and you'll probably know who you are, and I'm really sorry about this, but like, do not be a list person. There's some people in this world that have like a whole list planned out of their perfect partner, and a lot of the times those are both for like physical features, hobbies, personality, and I'm gonna tell you this right now, don't. It is the most toxic thing you could do for yourself and the other person you want to be with. So a list person is somebody who's like, oh, you know, I can only be with somebody if they're at least 6 feet tall. I can only be with somebody if they have blonde hair. I can only be with somebody if they have this kind of job, or if they do marathons or if they do this, I can't do it. Like, you're putting so much emphasis on the wrong thing. And of course, everybody's going to have preferences, right? Like, everybody's going to have a preference or what they're attracted to, and that's fine, but that shouldn't be the defining characteristic of what you look for in a partner. It really shouldn't. It should not matter if he or she is 6 feet tall or 5'9" or whatever. Like, it is so petty, and you're only doing a disservice to yourself because A, it makes you look shallow, and B, that person you're with, if they hear you say that kind of stuff, they're going to think that you don't really value them in the relationship. They're just not going to. Like, if I found out somebody was only dating me because of my ass, how does that look? You know? Like, that's... No, right? And of course, like, you can meet somebody and you'd be like, oh my god, I love your hair, I love your style, I love your makeup, I like your outfit. It's like, that's fine, because those are all things people choose, and that's how they express themselves, and that could be something that's reflective of who they are as a person. And like the hobby thing, it's a little bit different, right? If you're an athletic person and you know you're going to be doing athletic activities and you want somebody to do them with you, that's fine. But I don't think you should force people into your specific, like, category of exercise that you like, or you shouldn't expect somebody to adhere to your exercise routine, especially if you're somebody who's like extreme workout person, and you meet somebody, you shouldn't expect them to necessarily change their diet and lifestyle just to fit your expectations, because again, that's very egocentric, right? To expect somebody to change that much, you know? And I guess it's similar with hobbies. Like, my husband and I, we really honestly don't really have that many hobbies in common. I think the thing we do together the most is just binge watch sci-fi shows and TV shows, because we both are interested in sci-fi, right? But like, his sci-fi manifests in the form of Star Wars and very modern things, whereas my sci-fi manifests in like really creepy monsters from the 50s. You know, that's two totally different things, but we meet somewhere in the middle because we both have this like affinity for space, right? Similarly, like, we both really have an appreciation for, you know, other cultures, especially Japanese culture. Like, I have a respect for all cultures. I find that fascinating, and I love learning about other people. But he is more so focused on a few, and we both like Japan. But my exposure to Japan is like kind of embarrassing, but it's like through anime, right? Like, I don't think that's a secret that I watch anime on this channel, and so that was my introduction, and I really like. You know, I'm not a huge history buff, but I appreciate that art form, and so if I were to go to Japan, I would look for stuff like that. Whereas he is more of, you know, he definitely knows more about food, right? And he's obsessed with Japanese food, and we meet in the middle because we show each other new things. He does not watch as much anime as I do. I give him some stuff that I think he might like, and vice versa. I'm not a huge fan of seafood, so I don't like everything, all Japanese food, but I've tried stuff through him. I think it's really important, because if you're a list person, and you have your specific requirements met already, and say you can't enter this house until you meet these requirements, you will never learn from that other person, right? Because most of the times when people make their lists, it's something either they want or they already have. And if you have your list, you're not going to be able to learn something new, right? Or, you know, give people a shot, you know, and you shouldn't just say yes to everybody, right? But if somebody doesn't fit your perfect criteria of the perfect partner, that shouldn't eliminate them from being in your life. Because I'm gonna tell you what, you can have a plan, but life is going to just give you something that you didn't even think you needed, right? So that's my thing. Don't be a list person, number one. Just be flexible. You know, you can have your preferences, you can have your lifestyle, but don't expect to have a manufactured person just pop up in your life that's going to fit perfectly, because they're not. Dating advice number 2, I guess, if this is a list, it's not going to be a very long list. And this is going to be something that I feel like a lot of people might not want to hear. You have to be, like, really aware of yourself before you date somebody else. Now, you don't have to be perfect, right? Like, we don't have to be completely rid of all of our traumas before we date. And nobody actually is. Nobody's perfect, right? But you have to be self-aware enough to know what you want, right? Or what you need. And you also have to know, like, how you communicate or react to things. And 3, you have to have the self-awareness to know that that person is not going to react the same way you react to things. They're just not going to. And to expect them to is just going to hurt you more than it hurts them. And that's the 3rd one. It was the issue I was having. But let's go through all of them first, right? So, what did I say first? Oh, know what you want. if you are somebody who wants to date but is more interested in casually dating, say that up front. That's not going to be an issue. I mean, most of the times it's not. The worst thing that's going to happen is either you talk about it and then one of you compromises, or you leave and find somebody else. And I know that might seem like the end of the world, but the best dating advice, oh, I'll save that toward the end. But you have to know what you want. So if you're somebody who is not wanting to get serious, be upfront with your partner about that. Don't try to trick them. Don't try to convince them to stay because they want something serious and lie to them. That's just going to blow up in your face. Being manipulative is literally the worst thing you can freaking do. And there's some people who still do that, right? Even if you're upfront and honest and say, hey, I like you, I want this to be a thing, there is a chance that person will just lie, right? But like, it's also like just in life, right? You might have a chance of having a friend and losing that friendship. You might have a chance of earning money and losing money. That's just a part of the risk, right? And you shouldn't be afraid of that risk, but I feel like you still owe it to yourself and that other person to be completely transparent and honest about your expectations. But it's also important to know yourself, right? So, just an example, I need somebody who has a more gentle spirit than I do, right? And I found this out through dating, through experimentation, and I'm going to be completely transparent. So I'm someone who started dating at a young age, right? And I constantly had a partner, all the time. I was never single. Or if I was single, I was never single for long, and I was talking to somebody on the side, and then they became my partner, right? Whatever, but that exposed me to a lot, and I know kids are, when you're young, you're very self-interested, and there's some people that are going to be very self-interested for the rest of their life, but I need somebody who can mellow out my temper, because I'm not angry, I'm just anxious, right? So I need somebody who's going to be patient with me, and in turn, that makes me want to be patient for them. Like, it should always be a two-way street, but I just know that I was looking for somebody who I knew could be a rock for me if I needed to. I didn't want somebody who was really emotional. I didn't want somebody who was over the top, you know, because, I mean, that's how I am, right? But, like, I grew up in a household with a parent that was very much ruled by their emotions, and, I mean, I guess both of them were, but I've seen negative things happen from that. So I wanted something calm, right? I didn't want the constant fighting all the time because it's sexy and you make up at the end. No. And there's people who want that. I don't understand that. It does not work for me because I just want stability. I think that's the word, stability. Stability is somebody dependent, and I know that seems really basic, but you gotta have that, right? And I also kind of figured out along the way that I really wanted somebody who was creative. For me, creativity shows curiosity, and I'm the kind of person that loves to learn things, and so I would consider myself pretty creative too, and so I would want somebody to bounce ideas off of, right? I would want somebody who's constantly thinking or creating or seeing a new perspective from me. Those were my things. And those are two very, like, a whimsical-esque type things, but that's all I needed, right? You know, and obviously you want somebody to be a good person. I wanted somebody who was gentle and compassionate. So it's about knowing your needs, right? And the only way you really know your needs is if you know who you are and what's going on here, right? So again, a lot of introspection is important. We've all been through stuff and it's fine, but I see a lot of young people and I say young people like I'm so fucking old, but I see a lot of young people say like, oh, well, you know, I'm sorry, I'm cheating on you, it's just my ex cheated on me and I'm traumatized from that shit. No, just because bad shit happened to you, that does not give you license to be a bad person. It just doesn't. It doesn't. And I know we're not all perfect, and I've made mistakes in that department too. I have. And it's not okay. But you're supposed to admit that that's not okay, and then try to move on from it, right? This shouldn't be perpetual behaviors. You owe it to yourself more than that other person to become better. You do. It's for you. It's not for them. It's for you. It should always be for you. Because honest to God, I believe you are not going to find that right person for you until you're right with yourself. You're just not. And that's going to hit a lot of people really hard, because the thing is, everyone's deserving of love, right? No matter what they've done, no matter what they've been through, everybody deserves love, but you are not entitled to it. You're not entitled to a specific person, time, or energy if you're not willing to improve upon yourself to better the relationship. You're not. So work on yourself. I'm anxious as fuck. I have self-doubt about my worth as a human being. That is a constant struggle that I'm trying to process, right? You know, so sometimes what that looks like for me is constantly being like, oh, are you mad at me? Like, if it's, oh, I'm so bad. I am so bad when it comes to just silence after a conversation, because I was trained, growing up, I always associated silence with something bad's going to happen, right? Oh, somebody's about to get mad. It's like the silence before the storm, right? So for me, when there's silence after or before, like, a touchy subject, oh, I think something horrible's going to happen. It's not, right? It's not anymore, because I'm not in that environment, but, like, it's still a gut reaction, right? So sometimes I ask a lot, are you mad at me? What's going on? And it's not just with my romantic partners, my friendships too, I have self-doubt. Do they really like me? Or are they just putting up with me? These are sad fucking thoughts, right? And I'm being transparent about it, and I probably don't have to, right? I'm sure people like me. There's people who don't like me, but I don't care. But that's part of the anxiousness that I have, right? It's really real. So I have to learn to be like, to take a break, to not just react, right? I have to sit, breathe, process, and then respond. Just sit and be like, okay, well, what's really going on? What did we just talk about? And it's okay to still ask. That's where the patience comes in, right? If somebody's invested with you, they will tell you, right? No, it's fine. But you can't just rely on them to take care of your traumas, right? To deal with your symptoms. You have to also work at your core to minimize that for yourself, because no one likes being anxious. No one likes that self-doubt. I hate it. I try my best to just breathe and go, and I think in terms of, like, having arguments with your partner or whoever, it's an important skill that a lot of people don't actually do. It's just pausing in between thoughts and trying your best to articulate what you're feeling, right? And you can't do that unless you have the introspection to take those pauses and to look inward in yourself and to be like, what's going on here? Maybe I'm mad because of something else. Maybe I'm upset because of something that's happening in my family or my friend group or at work, and I'm talking to my partner about it and it just comes out, right? And that can happen. Everybody slips. But you have to be able to be like, oops, I slipped. I'm going to try better next time and follow through. And you can only do that if you look inward in yourself. I guess that was like 2 and 3 mixed, because 3, I remember talking about, like, communication styles and knowing yourself. The pauses is definitely good, right? But even beyond that, I'm going to kind of get into some weird stuff. Not weird. I saw this in college and I thought it was helpful. And it's helpful in my relationship to help me understand my partner. And it's kind of cheesy. Not everybody might succumb to this, but I learned about the 5 love languages of how people express affection. And I found them really helpful personally. If you don't know what that is, it's like different people have different ways of showing love and appreciation. And that can either be through physical touch, it could be acts of service, it could be giving or receiving gifts, verbal, and then what's the other one? I'm missing the 5th one. Oh, spending time together, quality time together. Yeah, so those are the 5. And there's, like, quizzes online you can take to figure out yours, and some people are a mix of the 2, but it helped me really realize that not everybody reacts to the same things as I do. Just so you know, I am definitely physical affection. That is my love language. If I love you, I will touch you. That's how you know. And even if we're friends, I kind of like do the playful slap kind of thing. That's me. That's who I am. That's how I express my affection, right? So if I need comfort and reassurance, I just need a hug. I just need to cuddle. I need, like, touching hair. That makes me so much better, right? But my husband, he is an acts of service guy. So if he wants to show me he loves me, he does the dishes. which is great, right? I love that because I can do other things. But sometimes it can be problematic because he'll be in the kitchen doing dishes thinking that he's giving me love, where I'm just sitting by myself on the couch and I'm like, why the heck is he leaving me alone? There's my point. So there is differences in that, and I think that's just a stepping stone. At least that was my stepping stone to realize that I need to really see the world through his eyes and be more empathetic. So, yeah, so now I've learned that if I want to show him love when he needs it the most, that me cooking dinner for him is a sign of love. That's kind of how we express it with food. And that's because we're both really big foodies, and that's how we bond, is through food. And so if I cook dinner for him, that means I love you in his language. Whereas if I really need it, if I'm not feeling good, literally he just says, come here, and holds me, and then eventually I open up. But, like, he knows that that's how I work. And you learn that through time. That's more of like a later stage dating thing instead of like the pre-dating thing, like the list thing. That's pretty early on. But you learn that, right? And it's important to realize that not everyone's going to see things the way you see them. And so it's really important to communicate. And I think that's beyond dating. I think that's just life. Like, it's just important to be transparent and tell people how you feel. So, like, you know, I was visiting a friend, and I hope he doesn't mind that I'm using this example, but even he was having a disagreement with chores with one of his roommates, right? Because in his mind, it's just common courtesy to do your fair share of chores, right? When it's your turn, just do it, right? Instead of being told. That's inconsiderate. And honestly, like, he and I are pretty similar, so, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, totally, I would feel the same way. But, you know, other people might... You don't know what's going on in their life, right? They might be putting it off till last minute because they're procrastinators, and they have other stuff they need to do. Maybe they were swamped with work or school or something. You know, you don't know unless you have that conversation. And other people might not consider it rude. They might not even give it a thought. You know, they might not... Like, I am a lot more emotionally aware of... I am a lot more emotionally aware of the impact of my words than my husband is. He'll just say what... And, I mean, to be honest, I could just say whatever I want to. But I know how to cushion it and make it sound nicer than what it really is. He doesn't give a fuck. He'll just be like, oh, that's so ugly. And I'll be like, you can't just say that. Like, you can't just do these things. But again, it's, I can't expect him to be on my same level of, like, concern for other people's emotions as me, right? There's certain things that I might think are important or that I might be hyper aware of that he's just not. And even if that person isn't, that just doesn't necessarily make them a bad person. They just see the world differently. And I think it's important to not just deem whatever you are as good and whatever somebody else is as bad. You have to be able to just say, oh, this is how you see it. Okay. And just, that itself is the biggest exercise of empathy, I think. My last one, okay, so my last, number 4, dating advice I have for all you chickadees, is talking, kind of going off of that, you know, you should be flexible, but you should know when to leave. This is the best dating advice I can give anybody, period. If you have any inclination that you want to leave this relationship, do it. Just do it. You know, like, you can talk it out, and, like, maybe if you want to explain yourself about why you're doing it, go ahead if you feel like you want to have that conversation with your partner. But if you're dating somebody and you just want to leave, just do it. You don't owe anybody an explanation. And some people might be very upset that I said that because they're like, oh, I need closure. No, that's an ego trip for you, friend. It will hurt you so bad to get dumped. And I know because I've been dumped and I've been the one dumping other people. And I know how bad it hurts, especially when it comes out of nowhere. But everyone has the right to leave a relationship. You are not entitled to that person. You aren't. You are deserving. You deserve love, right? Every human being deserves love and respect. But you are not entitled to that specific person. Or you're not entitled to this relationship. This is something that's extra in your life. It shouldn't be the end-all be-all of your life. It really shouldn't. But this is something that's extra and good, right? But if somebody else isn't feeling it anymore, then they can leave. And you just have to deal with it, you know? And that might sound really cold, but that's the truth, you know? And people leave for a bunch of different reasons. I just think that forcing somebody to stay is only going to cause them to resent you more. And is that really what you want? You know, before I met my husband, I was with somebody else. And they were a wonderful person. Wonderful person. I could have been pretty happy with them, right? You know, but the reason why I left is ultimately I was figuring out who I was through different experiences and what I wanted out of life. And I wanted to have all these adventures, right? I wanted to go travel. I wanted to meet new people, see new things. I wanted to just kind of live, right? Duh. But they were pretty content with where they were in life, and they just wanted to keep everything the same and do the same thing all the time. And again, that's not bad, right? Is it bad for me? Is that what I want? No, I don't want it, right? But it's not good versus evil. It's not good or bad, right? That's just what they wanted. They wanted a more simple life. And at the end of the day, even though we got along so well emotionally, physically, you know, everything else, I felt like I would be doing a disservice to myself if I didn't leave, right? And I think that is so important because I don't know about them, but speaking for myself, I have found the ultimate happiness. If I would have just tried to stay and compromise and live for that relationship or that other person, I would have ended up hating them. And they don't deserve that. They don't. I want them to be happy. I want everybody to be happy. Fuck. You know? In other situations, it's just freaking obvious. Like, if there is a safety issue, honey, you leave. You find wherever you can. You get the help you need. You know, either way, just go. You should never be fearful in a relationship. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. I'm not going to play with that. If they're volatile, they don't love you. This is just a control thing. You know, I hate to bring that into this conversation, but sometimes I feel like it needs to be said. If you have any inclination about leaving, you can. Even if you just, like, don't want to see them. You know, sometimes you date somebody and you just kind of like, oh, fuck, I'm bored. That's okay. It's okay. You could just go, you know, and just be like, hey, you know, and I know that's a thing, right? I know that's a thing with my generation and younger, is like the ghosting thing, which again, I feel like an old person because I've never done that. I know people do, and I know it's controversial, and I've never done it, but like, also, you're not entitled to a reason all the time. I think it's nice. Yeah, you're not entitled to a reason all the time. And I mean, it's nice, it's courteous for them to be like, well, this is why, right? But that might not be the case all the time, you know? If you're in a situation where you're being volatile and emotionally manipulative and harmful, that person's just gonna leave because you're being horrible. And I think deep down you know it. You know, work on it. You should be self-aware. And if you guys are communicating through this relationship, right, constantly, and it is a safe space for people to bring up their concerns, they will, and you guys will work them out. But if it's not that way, and these people feel like they can't bring up their concerns, then they are going to leave. And it's fine, right? But if it's like you don't have the environment to begin with where you feel safe about saying like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, I'm kind of thinking about this, then your relationship shouldn't be there in the first place. I'm sorry. If you can't talk to each other, if this really like hits you out of nowhere, then it's not a good relationship. And it might not be your fault, it might not be their fault, and a lot of times it's nobody's fault. But like, people just like feeling the good guy or the bad guy, and you can't approach that with relationships. You can't have this ego or superiority, and I keep bringing back to the list people, but you can't be a list person. You can't just hit this checklist, and you can't be in a relationship because it's part of your checklist, right? Being in a relationship is like having whipped cream on your ice cream. It's nice, but ice cream's still good by itself. I think the ice cream analogy is the best, you know? Is it nice to be dating? Oh, heck yeah. Will it bring you a lot of happiness? Oh, yes. But you should also find that happiness within yourself first. You should find that at least some. You should find that happiness, maybe not in yourself, but in your dog, or in your job, or in your hobbies. Have something else besides the relationship. And I think that will make you have a much clearer head about the decisions you make or the things you say while you're trying to date or date somebody. So yeah, that's my video. Sorry if it's really, really long. I tried to give some structure to it, but I feel like at the end of the day, I'm just going to keep rambling on. Because that's my videos. That's the kind of video style I've been doing. I hope you found some of this helpful. If you want more in-depth, like, advice about specific things, like, I know I covered just kind of like all the stages of dating instead of just talking about like, okay, well, how do you meet somebody, you know, how do you initiate that you want to be more serious, how do you get them to marry you, I don't know. If you want more specifics about those types of videos, I can definitely do that. Just let me know by commenting down below, or liking the video, sharing it with a friend, all that jazz. Just let me know that you really enjoy it, and I will make more content like this. That's kind of just how the algorithm works, or that's how my schedule is going to work. It's like, I react to what you guys do, and if something's not doing well, I switch it up, right? Just trying to find out my niche and our niche. So yeah, let me know. If you found this helpful, let me know down below. If you didn't, tell me why. If you disagree with everything I say, that's fine. Tell me why. Just be nice. And until next time, thanks. Bye.